So this is a play that the Golden State Warriors use a lot of the time. If you watch any Golden State Warrior games, you will see this play being run, at least once a game in terms of baseline out of bounds. Now, the way they signal it, they call this play rub, meaning that the inbounder will often maybe rub their stomach, rub their head, something like that, to signal that this play is taking place. So the official name for this one is we call it rub, okay? Now, how this play is going to work, we're going to have all 4 players line up in a line, right? As you can see here, we have our 4 players lined up. You have to imagine right now that the defense on the floor is going to be standing in between their player and the basket. So the player that they're guarding and the basket. So we'll imagine that these X's, right, in this situation are going to be the defense, right? So what's going to happen here, and we can see the X's right now, this is where the defense will line up. What's actually going to happen is we're going to get the ball inbounds, but then we're going to have somebody screen for the inbounder to get open for an easy layup. So this is how it's going to work. Number 5 is going to kind of pop out and extend their left arm, right? They're just going to kind of push off, back up a little bit, extend their left arm and receive the basketball, almost as if it's a little bit of a lob. You want to have a taller player here in the number 5 spot, but they're just kind of pushing off, right? You have to understand that their defender is going to be right there, right? Their defender right now is worried about the basket. So all number 5 really needs to do is just push off, come back here a little bit, have their left hand up, and number 1 is going to basically, throw a high pass over here to number 5. When number 5 catches the ball, they're going to immediately square out to the basket and visualize the basket from where they are. Now, as that is happening, and number 5 can even push off as high to the elbow. It doesn't matter. It all depends on the skill set of your team. If they need to have a quick push off, that's fine. If you have somebody taller that can extend a little bit wider, that's okay too. But what's going to happen here is number 3 is then going to run over to the inbounds position and set a screen for number 1. So number 3 is coming over and setting that screen here for number 1. Now what number 1 is going to do is come off that screen, and they're going to cut to the basket right here, and they will receive the ball for a quick and easy layup. And, it's kind of surprising that this might work as well as it does under the rim like this, but, it almost results in a quick and easy layup every single time. Let's take a look at it once more. And in one of our other videos, you can, and I'll link it in the description, you can very clearly watch the Golden State Warriors run this play. But let's watch again. So 5 is just kind of pushing off, receiving the ball with their left hand. They're going to square out to the basket. As that's happened, number 3 is coming over here to set a screen for number 1, right? They're setting that screen. Number 1 is coming off the screen. They're receiving that basketball here for a quick and easy basket under the rim. Now, that's rub. That's a Golden State Warriors play. Check out our other video that I will link in the description if you want to watch the Golden State Warriors actually run this in action. But this is a great play to add to your playbook to result in a quick and easy basket every time.
Okay, let's take a look at the Warriors run this play right now. So you can already see they're lined up in that straight line. And Draymond Green, it looks like here, is already ready to push off and receive the basketball. So let's take a look at it. So as we'll see, Draymond Green pushes off, receives that basketball with his left hand. And we already have Steph Curry heading down there, screening for the inbounder, and we get that easy layup. Let's see if we can see another one. Here we go. So we have the push off there by Iguodala. He's receiving the basketball. And again, Steph Curry setting that initial screen, and we have a wide open lane right there for Gary Payton II. Pretty easy basketball play, but it makes sense, can result in a very easy layup every time.
So for this play used by the Golden State Warriors, the focus is to get the ball inbounds and then go into a dribble handoff to get somebody else on the team open. So this is how it's going to start. We're going to have number 5 here, and they're going to be the person that you want to receive the basketball. So number 5 is going to start right now by setting a screen for number 3 around the 3-point line. You might even be able to move them back a little bit. It depends how old your team is. So number 3 is coming off that screen, and they're going to look for the ball under the rim for a wide open layup. Are they going to get that? Most likely not. You never know. You might get that opportunity. You might get that option down low, but chances are it's not going to be there. So we're just going to then have number 3 clear out a little bit and fill into a new spot. What number 5 is going to do after that screen is being set is they're going to pop either outside the 3-point line. If you're a younger team, you can maybe set this up a little bit closer, but let's just say around here. So we're going to get the ball into number 5. So for number 5, you're probably going to want that to be a taller player, maybe, your 5 obviously on the floor, your center position player, somebody who can, you can kind of lob the ball into. And what's going to happen then is number 2 and number 5 are going to meet for a dribble handoff. And after that dribble handoff, number 5 is setting a screen for number 2, and number 2 is coming off of that dribble handoff, and number 5 is rolling. So we now have a dribble handoff pick and roll. Now, you can use number 4 and number 3 in different ways. If you want to have number 3 here in the dunker spot, just in case we get, a double team here for one of these players, that's fine. Or if you want to have number 3 clear out for a 3-point shot, that's okay too. But overall, you do have multiple options here, and the goal is to get the ball inbounds for that dribble handoff pick and roll. Let's watch the Golden State Warriors run this in action. Here we have the Golden State Warriors running this play, so let's take a look. So as we can see right now, we have JaVale McGee, it looks like right here at the free throw line, and he's their center, he's their big that's going to be setting that screen, and then all their players are outside the three-point line like we talked about. So it starts with JaVale McGee setting that screen at the three-point line, and then JaVale McGee is going to pop and extend and receive the basketball. Immediately after that happens, this player on the wing, who looks to be Sean Livingston, is going to meet JaVale McGee for that dribble handoff, and then we have a wide open DHO dribble handoff / pick and roll to the basket. Pretty easy, pretty simple, not super complicated, which is what I do find with the Golden State Warriors and their dribble handoff play, their baseline out of bounds plays and their sideline out of bounds plays. They like to keep things simple. They like to just focus on getting the ball in bounds. And obviously it's easy to do that when you have players like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and players like that. But as you can see, they just ran this play here with some, players that are not even close to that caliber. So this is something that you can run with, some of your stronger players, or if you're a youth team, it's pretty simple, and you can run this with your younger team as well.
Okay, so the next play that we are going to look at here is a little pin down action used by Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. Now, the goal of this particular play is to get somebody open for a mid-range shot, right? Tim Duncan would often come off of this screen that we're going to show you, and he would usually get, a mid-range shot around the free throw line. So if you have a particular player that you like to get open for a mid-range shot, someone you trust in the mid-range, this is the perfect play that you can use. So let's dive into it. Let's take a little look. Now, the biggest part of this play is that it comes from a little pin down action, but there are a few little things that happen first. So let's take a look at it. So number 1 here is our point guard. Okay, and number 5 is the player that you want to shoot that, little mid-range shot. Oftentimes, like I said, the San Antonio Spurs would do this for Tim Duncan. So the first thing that we're going to do is number 3 is going to back cut, and they're going to do a little loop around and come outside to the three-point line to receive the basketball. As that happens, though, number 5 is going to step in and set a little screen here for number 3 on the way over. So number 3, like I said, is cutting. Number 5 is stepping in to set a little screen as number 3 does that. Number 3 is continuing until number 3 gets to the three-point line. Once that happens, number 1 is going to feed the ball over here to number 3. Now, we have number 2 here at the elbow, kind of lined up as if this were to be a little bit of a horn set. So number 2 is just going to pop out wide to the three-point line, and number 3 is just going to dish the ball over to number 2. Now, as that happens, number 3 is going to cut through the middle of the key and look for the basketball from number 2, almost as if they're maybe looking to do a little bit of a 5-out motion style cut to the basket. But what they're actually going to do is come down here and set a hard screen for number 5. Number 5 is going to curl off of that screen for a mid-range shot. Number 2 is going to hit number 5. And number 5 is going to have pretty much a wide open lane here for a mid-range shot around the free throw line like we talked about. So let's take a look at this again and let's reset. So we are reset now. We have our point guard here. We have, almost a little bit of a horns looking set there. And we have our 5 who's going to be shooting that mid-range shot ready to go. So like we said, the first thing we're going to have here is number 3 is going to loop around to the 3-point line. Number 5 will step in for the screen on the way over. Number 3 is moving. Number 5 setting that screen. Number 3 is continuing over, right? And they're receiving that pass here from number 1. As that happens, number 2 is popping wide. We're going to feed the ball over to number 2. Number 3 is looking for the basketball, but they're actually going to set a screen here for number 5. And then number 5 is going to roll to about right here, receive that basketball around the free throw line, and they're going to get a mid-range wide open shot. Let's look at this play now being used by the San Antonio Spurs in NBA game action. So as we see here, we have Tony Parker bringing up the basketball in the point guard spot, and we will have Danny Green over here in the corner as the one kind of looping around to the 3-point line to get open. As you can see, Tim Duncan has already started the process of setting that screen there for Danny Green. So as we see, Danny Green comes up to the 3-point line, just like we talked about. And then we have somebody here coming back up to the 3, kind of popping wide off of that horns kind of look around the elbow, just like we talked about. They've received the basketball. Now you'll see Danny Green begin to cut like we talked about, but he's actually going to set that screen for Tim Duncan, that pin down screen. Tim Duncan comes off of it for a wide open shot around the free throw line, which was pretty easy for him. As we know, that was the specialty of Tim Duncan. Easy play for the Spurs. You can run this with just about any age group. So the first play that the Boston Celtics often run starts in a 4-out, 1-in type of setting. Now, usually right here, in this 5 spot, you'll see somebody like Kristaps Porzingis or Al Horford or somebody like that, while all the other players space the floor around the basketball floor. Now, what you'll see is this usually results in a pick and roll. So let's take a look at it first. So let's say we get a screen right here being set for our point guard. Now, what the Boston Celtics tend to do a lot of time is just try to find a paint touch down low. So you'll often see the point guard dribble in. Sometimes you'll see the 5 roll to the basket. Sometimes you'll see the 5 pop, especially with the Boston Celtics, as their big men are shooters, right? You see Kristaps Porzingis in there. You see Al Horford in there. They like to shoot the basketball. So their offense originally starts a lot of the time with a paint touch in the key just off of a pick and roll, which works very well for the Boston Celtics when some of these players outside the 3-point line are going to be some of their best players like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. You can't really cheat off of those players. So that's kind of their first option there, is just looking for that paint touch within the key. But what you'll see a lot of the time is that initial option won't work, and then they just kind of follow some basic 5-out cutting principles. So you'll see that initial screen being set, and maybe nothing will come from it, and you'll see that 5 kind of pop outside to the 3-point line. You'll then usually see a swing here, and then this 4 will immediately cut to the basket, and oftentimes that results in a wide open layup. Let's watch the Boston Celtics run this one. Okay, let's watch this first option here. And in this one, we'll see that basic pick and roll, right? So let's see. So we have Al Horford right here, and he's setting this screen up high for Derek White. And as we'll see right here, Derek White just gets that wide open lane to the basket because you can't really cheat off of these 3-point shooters or Jaylen Brown. And for that reason, he'll just get a wide open lane to the rim. You'll see the Boston Celtics run that one a lot, to be quite honest, and surprisingly for them, it works. When you have guys like Derek White and Drew Holiday who are running that offense, mixed with some shooters and some really intense offensive threats like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, like I said earlier, you'll often get that easy lane to the basket. In this next option here, we'll watch this being run very similarly, but now we'll get that initial cut to the basket after the first pick and roll or pick and pop. So for this one, like I said previously, it's not always that wide open lane to the basket. Sometimes after that first initial screen, they'll go into some 5-out motion offense principles. And this is what we'll take a look at now. So we have Derek White up top with the basketball in his hands again, and we have Kristaps Porzingis setting that initial screen. But as you can see, the screen didn't really go too far. He kind of stopped halfway through the screen and instead popped to the 3-point line. So now we have Kristaps Porzingis at the three-point line, and you'll immediately then see Jason Tatum, as soon as Kristaps Porzingis receives that basketball, cut through the paint, because as you can see right here, his defender's not really paying close attention. So immediately Jason Tatum will cut to the basket. He will get a wide open lane to the basket, because what are you going to do? You can't cheat off of Jaylen Brown right here, and you can't even really cheat off of Drew Holiday or Derek White. Right, the Boston Celtics, one of their biggest advantages is that they can have 5 3-point threats on the floor at once, so the defense can't really cheat. And that's why right now you'll see Jason Tatum get that beautiful wide open layup. Something you'll see a lot with the Boston Celtics is they'll get some wide open layups because, like I said, you can't cheat off of 3-point threats. Now, those are two relatively easy options. So let's take a look at what the Boston Celtics will often do if those two options are not there, or if they're being guided quite well. So as we know, we have that initial screen being set by Kristaps Porzingis, or the whoever that 5 may be. Sometimes it's Al Horford. It really depends. So again, we have that screen being set, and let's just say they pop, because that's kind of what we usually see for the most part with this Boston Celtics team. So this is usually swung up top to the three-point line. And as we know, we have that initial cutter who looks for the basketball. But as you know, when you're coaching a team, or you're looking at a team where, maybe you don't have 5 3-point threats on the floor at once, how can we switch things up? How can we do what the Boston Celtics do? What did they do next? Because even for them, sometimes it's not there. So what will happen is this player will continue to cut and continue to move on while everyone else fills a spot. And then you'll often have 2 quick options here for number 2, the remaining player on the opposite side of the floor. And what we'll often see the Boston Celtics do is sometimes have this player move up and then immediately backdoor to the basket to see if we can get an option right here for another cutter for number 2. Now, I've seen the Boston Celtics do this a few times, but that isn't usually the option that they go to here, because it isn't necessarily a safe option. It is something that, players can be taught to say, okay, maybe you could fall back on this. But what you'll often see the Boston Celtics do, if those few options aren't there, is a dribble handoff, a DHO. So you'll see number 5, dribble handoff over to number 2, right? Usually, again, this is Kristaps Porzingis. Hand off the ball to number 2 and set a screen. Number 2 will come off that screen with the basketball, and you'll often see number 2 drive to the basket while number 5 rolls. So typically here you'll see Jason Tatum in that Jaylen Brown in that number 2 spot, right, driving to the basket, while Kristaps Porzingis or Al Horford rolls to the basket as well. So you have 2 options right here. Then these players can start moving up, right, and filling a spot of a potential 3-point shooter if you get a double team down low. Now let's watch the Boston Celtics run this in action. Okay, let's take a look at the Boston Celtics running both of these sets in action. Now, as you'll see right here at the top of the floor, again, we have Derek White with the ball, and we already have Kristaps Porzingis popping to the 3-point line. Now, we have this cut already taking place, this initial cut, but as we can see, it's guarded pretty well here by Memphis. So what will happen here is Jaylen Brown is ready. He's watching the floor, he's seeing this, and we'll see a quick backdoor cut here by Jaylen Brown, which will get him an easy 2 at the rim. So that's that first initial option that we talked about from Jaylen Brown, that quick backdoor option. Now, is this an option that I would set in stone? Probably not, but it is something that I would teach a team to read and react to potentially have that backdoor option. But now let's take a look at the dribble handoff option, which is the option that they most often use. So as we can see here, we have our point guard at the top of the floor, and it looks like it is Kristaps Porzingis once again setting that screen, and he pops. Then we'll have Jaylen Brown originally cutting to the basket. Can we get that there? No. But because we don't have that, option, because it's being guarded pretty well here by Kelly Oubre, what we'll have Kristaps Porzingis do is run a dribble handoff over here with Derek White. So we have that dribble handoff, we have the screen, and then we have the pick and roll between Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis. In this situation, it went to Kristaps Porzingis, and he gets that wide open layup or dunk at the rim.